I'm a member of shattered illusions, and am I needless to say, another song facing nothing new. But love is big in every land, every nation seeks it.
Yeah, it's like a blues, you know. I think it's, I find it really hard to make happy songs. You know, I'll always drift towards the blue. I think there's a melancholia, but I mean, hopefully, you know, within the melancholia and the melancholic, some feelings of some kind of anger. Hopefully there's also some beauty, because we need beauty in the world. You know, we need beauty. So I think, like, when I was talking about making the album with Kieran, you know, before we went to work, we were talking about the kind of vibe that we wanted the music to have. And in contrast to the last record, which was quite edgy, I think we both just felt like it should have more of a warmer sound, you know, and a more. Kieran says that he feels that the album is elegant, and I quite like that. Well, basically, I wrote, like, some of the songs, like, more just like in a more solitude space, like by myself, like some of them, especially in the early bit of the writing, which I kind of started already in like 2015. I just was just more like kind of sitting down by myself, you know, and just figuring out where I was, you know. And then in the late kind of November, December, Cameron and myself went in the studio, in our studio, and just had a really kind of quite sort of like we were in a really good little bubble, you know. We went, it was like a feeling of like being in a waiting room, having been in a waiting room, just walking around in circles, and then getting inside a quite magical space. And we did like a lot of songs in quite a short period of time. And then I went with Cameron to meet Kieran with the, just like the demos of what we'd done. And then Kieran, this time, you know, really had the freedom to like really sonically affect the whole thing, because the last album was, I mean, with a band, so of course it was a really different thing. And I feel like his vision was so right, you know. And he was working on his own album at the time, and he was really kind of in this kind of dimension of wanting to work at things from a very kind of quiet, kind of quite organic place. So we started with a song like Deep Vein Thrombosis, which is on the album, which is, it almost reminds me of, like, of my dad, like of Don's, like a sound that I kind of grew up with, you know. It's like something that's in my backbone. But we started there, and then quite quickly, as we were making the tracks, like when we then went to make a track that was louder, like we didn't have to be that loud in a way, you know. So it kept things in this kind of, this landscape, I think, that has a kind of, it can be strong, but it's also quite fragile. And like you're saying, it kept yeah, like a blue, like a, it's sort of, yeah, I don't know. I think Kong was quite an achievement, I mean, to be back, like working again with 3D. I hadn't worked with him. I wrote with him on Blue Lines, Him of the Big Wheel. We did the lyrics together. And then Manchild 3D wrote the raps. So it was really nice to just have this time now to do another collaboration, and to do it together with Kieran was kind of a deep thing. And then I think the other track for me maybe is Synchronized Devotion, which, you know, there's a vibraphone on this song, and the guy who plays the vibraphone, the man, Professor Carl Berger, he was, we made the album in his studio, in the Creative Music Studios. And he's been a big part of my life. He used to play with my dad, with Neneh Cherry. And I grew up around him and his wife, Ingrid, a lot. And it was just beautiful to see him playing on the vibraphone, on the same vibraphone that he used to play with my dad on 50 years ago or more, you know? So just that story in itself, like, I think really resonated in the track. I think it's my roots, you know? I mean, I come from quite a, I mean, I'm realizing now as I get older, you know, that it's quite how rich that background is and how much it's given me. And I think that, like, both of my parents, for instance, were always telling me and, like, my brother when we were growing up to listen to our own voice, you know? Yeah, you're influenced, you know, we're influenced by everything that's happening around us. We're taking in things constantly, the stuff that's going on around, but to then translate it through your own signals, you know? And I guess I grew up in Sweden, and I grew up a bit in New York, and I went to live in London, and I was a punk when I was 15. I got into hip hop when I was like 16. I used to hang out in Queensbridge projects where Nas and all these people, Roxanne Shante, came from when I was like 14, before hip hop was really formed. So I guess all of it just, you know, so I've just been to a thing where sometimes it just used to make me feel weird and like I didn't belong anywhere. You know what I mean? I just always used to feel kind of different. But actually now it's like, you know, we're all kind of different and we're all kind of weird. It's all right, you know? I guess I've got like several places that I feel like connected to, like on a deeper level. Definitely the house, like where I grew up in Sweden, that we still have in the family. Like when I go there, I feel like I'm actually a part of that DNA, you know? Like I think New York is a city that also like is a part of me and I'm a part of it. Like New York, I quite often think about New York when I'm writing lyrics, because I think you see so many contrasts there. Now it's a bit more gentrified and maybe there's like a bit too much money everywhere in New York for it to be. And London, of course, you know what I mean? I've lived there it's my home right now. But I think also there's something interesting about, you know, being a human being in the world and feeling conscious, you know, how I also know that I adapt quite quickly. So which is why I like to travel. You know, I quite quickly feel like I become a part of a place. I love Paris. That's the kind of political activism that I've been speaking through. Do you know what I mean? And I think that all of that music that you've just spoken about, all of that stems from a place of a kind of social consciousness and people trying to turn things upside down and trying to make a difference, or even when the lyrics aren't necessarily political, it's the spirit of where it comes from, you know? So I think, you know, that's an amazing, you know, that's, I guess, the most important maybe attraction to music for me, or ingredient, is that substance, you know, that makes you think and feel. And also, of course, it's about recording, you know, our communities and societies. It's like social commentary, you know, of a time. But as different things have unfolded, yeah, I've always, I guess, liked things where there's like some some grit, like jungle, or, you know, like music when it's provocative. What do I say to that? I mean, the first thing it makes me think is that I had just had a baby 4 weeks earlier when we did that cover. And it makes me, I don't know, like, I feel like it's a friend. That makes me think of Sweden, homebrew. This was an accidental cover. I was living in Spain, and literally there was a fiesta in the village near to where I was living, and these girls were just on the street, and we just did this picture. So it just happened kind of like here, like this. Sweden. Now.